Why does your morning coffee leave you with a bitter, acidic burn in the pit of your stomach by 10 a.m., while that glazed donut dissolves into a gummy, chalky paste the second you chew it? You probably think you just have mild indigestion, or that your taste buds are changing as you get older, or maybe you just grabbed a bad batch from the drive-thru. You are completely wrong. Your body is actively rejecting a highly engineered corporate illusion, and those subtle symptoms are the exact red flags you have been trained to ignore. Every single morning, millions of Americans pull into a brightly lit drive-thru lane, hand over hard-earned cash, and receive a cup and a paper bag that they treat like a comforting secular ritual. You assume you are buying food and drink made by a breakfast company that cares about your morning. In reality, you are consuming a highly optimized financial asset designed by private equity firms to extract maximum cash while delivering the absolute legal minimum of actual quality. If you watch this investigation until the very end, your entire perspective on convenient morning routines will change forever. You will find out the exact timeline of how iconic American morning staples were systematically hollowed out from the inside. I will show you the precise laboratory data and corporate cost-cutting measures that transformed fresh-baked community staples into flash-frozen, factory-reheated chemical structures. We will dissect the financial engineering that forces local store owners to sell you inferior products just to keep their lights on. Most importantly, near the very end of this video, I will reveal the single most shocking industry secret about what actually happens to the coffee beans before they ever touch your cup. A truth that big food chains spend millions of dollars every year trying to bury. By the time we are done, you will possess more leverage and insight than 90% of shoppers standing in line today. Before we name the specific culprits sitting on every American corner from Walmart parking lots to neighborhood strip malls, we need to establish how a real cup of coffee and a genuine baked good are actually supposed to function. Think of premium coffee like a precision-engineered sports car engine. A quality coffee bean is a complex organic structure packed with delicate volatile oils, natural sugars, and intricate flavor compounds that depend entirely on geographic elevation and meticulous roasting. When you brew it correctly, it should deliver a smooth, naturally sweet experience that requires zero mask of dairy or heavy syrup to be palatable. Cheap commercial coffee, however, operates like a rusted-out clunker held together by duct tape and heavy exhaust. The mass production industry relies on high-yield, low-grade crops harvested indiscriminately, which are then roasted to oblivion to mask defects and uniform flavor profiles. This aggressive over-roasting strips away the natural complexity, leaving behind an incredibly harsh, highly acidic liquid that tears through your stomach lining and forces you to dump in artificial creamers just to make it go down. The exact same structural decay applies to the pastries you pair with that morning caffeine. A classic donut or bagel is supposed to be an artisanal balance of simple, living ingredients, fresh yeast, unbleached flour, real butter or high-quality lard, and a clean frying process that creates a crisp, golden exterior and a light, airy crumb structure. It is a live product with a shelf life measured in hours, not months. But the modern fast food industry cannot scale a live product. Instead, they have completely re-engineered the process into a synthetic manufacturing loop. They replaced the skilled local baker with automated industrial factories located hundreds of miles away. To make this logistical nightmare possible, corporations rely on a toxic cocktail of highly refined seed oils, chemical emulsifiers, modified starches, and flash freezing technology. They create a product designed to sit in a deep freezer for half a year, travel cross-country in a semi-truck, and get blasted with high-pressure steam ovens just moments before it hits your paper bag. You are not eating a fresh pastry. You are eating a deeply processed, defrosted simulation of one, carefully calibrated to trigger the first 2 seconds of your taste buds before collapsing into generic, sugary nothingness. Let us pull back the curtain and look at the absolute wreckage sitting on your neighborhood shelves, starting with the household names you see in every single suburban strip mall from coast to coast. We begin with a brand that has spent decades positioning itself as the ultimate, reliable, blue-collar American breakfast haven, Dunkin'. Formerly known as Dunkin' Donuts, this brand built its entire legacy on the image of the local baker waking up at 4 in the morning, dustings of flour on his apron, hand-cutting dough to serve the morning rush of construction workers and commuters. People trusted it because it felt like public infrastructure. But then, the corporate chessboard shifted. Dunkin' was acquired by Inspire Brands, a massive private equity-backed conglomerate that also owns Arby's and Sonic. When private equity takes over a food chain, they apply a brutal methodology called zero-based budgeting. Every single ingredient, process, and supplier must justify its cost from scratch every single budget cycle. And if a cheaper alternative can pass a basic consumer panel within an acceptable margin of error, the cheaper ingredient wins every single time. This is exactly why Dunkin' quietly dropped the word donuts from its name in 2018. It wasn't just a slick marketing refresh, it was a legal and operational declaration. They completely phased out traditional, manual, in-store frying and baking across the vast majority of their thousands of locations. Instead, they transitioned to a highly automated system of centralized manufacturing facilities. The dough is mixed, shaped, and partially baked at a massive regional plant, loaded into cardboard boxes, flash frozen at peak temperature, and shipped via logistics trucks to your local store. The teenager behind the counter isn't a baker. They are a machine operator who slides a tray of frozen factory-made rings into a high-pressure TurboChef convection oven and hits a button to defrost them. This is why the texture of a modern Dunkin' Donut no longer has that slightly crisp, delicate, melt-in-your-mouth quality of real fried dough. Instead, it possesses a dense, uniform, sponge-like crumb that feels almost identical to a cheap dinner roll or a piece of packaged white bread left out on the counter. The flavor doesn't linger. It hits you with an immediate shock of sugar glaze and then completely dies. If you already feel like checking your own kitchen counter or looking at the drive-thru line down the street with a sudden sense of dread, you need to subscribe right now, because the deeper we dig into these corporate archives, the harsher the reality becomes. Let us talk about their coffee, because this is where the financial extraction really hidden in plain sight. Dunkin' prides itself on its signature original blend, which for decades was a highly consistent, smooth, medium roast beverage brewed fresh every 18 minutes. But real estate and coffee traders who closely analyze commercial supply chains have documented a slow, steady drift in the bean selection. To maintain razor-thin volume price points in the face of global inflation, the blend has shifted toward higher-yield, lower-cost bean varieties. Independent laboratory testing conducted by consumer advocacy groups like the Clean Label Project has repeatedly flagged the presence of pesticide residues and industrial contaminants in mass-market coffee supplies. When you pay close to $4 for a large iced coffee, you are no longer paying for a premium, carefully roasted agricultural product. You are paying a massive premium for a highly commoditized, cost-optimized asset. As restaurant industry analyst Dr. Linda Morrison noted in a recent corporate supply chain review, fast food breakfast chains are no longer food companies. They are supply chain logistics businesses that monetize nostalgia to shield their shareholders from commodity market volatility. You are paying for the historical memory of a great cup of coffee, while receiving a liquid engineered strictly to hit a quarterly profit target. Moving further down the line of deception, we hit another absolute giant of the American morning, Panera Bread. For the last 20 years, Panera has successfully cultivated an image of suburban wholesome luxury. They styled their locations like cozy, high-end cafes with stone fireplaces and warm lighting, calling their stores bakery cafes to convince you that you were eating clean, artisanal food prepared by passionate professionals. They charged a massive premium for this illusion, turning a simple soup and sandwich lunch into a $15 to $20 expenditure. But the reality behind that counter is a masterclass in corporate hollowing. Former franchise employees and managers have flooded online forums and investigative reports with the exact same documented reality. Almost nothing at Panera is actually made from scratch in the building. Take their iconic soups, like the broccoli cheddar or the chicken noodle, which consumers pay premium restaurant prices for. That soup does not simmer in a pot in the kitchen. It arrives at the back door of the store inside heavy sealed plastic bags, pre-made months in advance at a centralized industrial food plant. The kitchen staff simply drops the plastic bags into a commercial hot water thermal bath called a rethermalizer to heat them up, then cuts the plastic and pours the liquid into the frontline serving wells. It is entirely shelf-stable, factory-produced food disguised as local kitchen cooking. The sandwiches and wraps suffer from the exact same corporate calibration. The meats are pre-sliced and chemically preserved. The spreads are loaded with modified cornstarch and artificial thickeners to stretch volume, and the portions are precisely calibrated down to the fraction of an ounce. If a blueberry muffin or a pastry feels lighter and fluffier than it did a few years ago, it is not an improvement in baking technique. It is the deliberate introduction of modified starches and chemical leavening agents designed to add structural volume at a lower raw material cost than actual fruit or flour. Panera was bought out by Jab Holding Company, a massive European conglomerate that systematically buys up food brands and aggressively streamlines their operations to maximize margins. The outcome is inevitable: costs go down, corporate margins expand, and the product slowly degrades just enough that you don't immediately boycott, but fast enough that after a decade you are paying premium prices for what is essentially a frozen TV dinner served on a ceramic plate, as one viral consumer review from a veteran patron in Ohio perfectly summarized. Panera has slowly transformed from a high-quality bakery into a glorified hospital cafeteria that charges five-star hotel prices. But the absolute pinnacle of this industry-wide deception belongs to the ultimate heavyweight of global coffee culture: Starbucks. This is the brand that single-handedly taught Americans to pay $5, $6, or $7 for a daily caffeine beverage, convincing the public that they were participating in an elite European-style coffeehouse experience. They created an intricate, pseudo-intellectual vocabulary of grande and venti to make you feel like an insider, while building a massive cult of loyalty around their seasonal promotions. But under the hood, Starbucks operates the most aggressively cost-optimized, industrial-scale extraction machine in the entire beverage industry. Let us look directly at the foundational product, their standard espresso and drip coffee. If you drink it completely black, you will immediately notice an incredibly intense, bitter, burnt rubber flavor profile. This is not an accident or a mistake by an untrained barista. Starbucks intentionally over-roasts their Arabica beans to an extreme degree. They do this because when you operate tens of thousands of locations globally, it is physically impossible to ensure that agricultural bean crops from different regions and seasons taste identical. By roasting the beans until they are completely charred, they strip away all the unique regional characteristics, acidity, and delicate notes of the coffee. They create a uniform, completely burnt flavor profile that tastes exactly the same whether you order it in New York City, a highway rest stop in Texas, or an airport terminal in Miami. This burnt liquid acts as a highly stable chemical base designed for one specific purpose: to cut through massive quantities of milk, high-fructose corn syrup, and synthetic flavor pumps. The entire modern Starbucks business model is built not on coffee, but on liquid candy. The legendary products like the Frappuccinos, the iced macchiatos, and the seasonal lattes are absolute metabolic nightmares, packed with more sugar and industrial dairy substitutes per serving than a standard can of soda or a pint of commercial ice cream. They front-load the taste experience with highly optimized flavor compounds that hit your palate in the first 2 seconds, triggering a massive dopamine spike before completely fading into a generic, cloying sweetness. You are paying a 700% markup on a commodity beverage where the most expensive component is the plastic cup and the cardboard sleeve. Furthermore, the corporate structure has ruthlessly squeezed the local execution. They introduced automated espresso machines that require the barista to do nothing more than push a digital button. They redesigned store layouts to eliminate seating, converting their warm third-place community spaces into cold, high-throughput, assemblies line drive-thrus optimized exclusively for digital mobile app orders. The corners are cut at every single tier, from the cheap palm oil and canola blends substituted into their pastries to the hyper-accelerated training schedules of their staff. The corporate machine extracts every single drop of financial margin from the product, transfers the pressure onto overworked, underpaid employees, and delivers a deeply compromised industrial commodity directly to your cup while wrapping it in a green logo that whispers a total lie about premium luxury. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for: the transition from absolute corporate exploitation to the actual rewards of smart, intentional consumer choices. We are leaving the depressing land of flash-frozen assembly lines and burnt, heavily commoditized bean crops to look at options that respect both your wallet and your morning. If you are ready to stop funding the quarterly earnings statements of aggressive private equity conglomerates every single day, you do not have to abandon convenience entirely. You just need to shift your dollars to brands where the actual product is the entire point, not an afterthought. Let us start with the absolute gold standard for affordable, high-volume grocery shelf coffee that you can pick up on any routine trip to Target, Walmart, or Kroger. Peet's Coffee. Specifically, their legendary Major Dickinson's blend. Peet's is the literal grandfather of specialty roasting in the United States, founded in Berkeley back in the late 1960s, and they have managed to do something that mass chains completely failed to do: scale up their distribution without completely hollowed out quality standards. Unlike the hypercharred, uniform bitterness of a standard commercial dark roast, Pete's processes their beans in much smaller batch sizes with a hyper-focused attention to temperature control. The raw inputs are strictly 100% Arabica beans sourced from premier, high-elevation estates across Latin America and the Indo-Pacific. When you open a fresh bag, you are immediately hit with a deeply complex aromatic fragrance of toasted nuts and rich dark chocolate. In practice, the texture is incredibly full-bodied and velvety smooth, delivering a robust, punchy profile that cuts through milk naturally without requiring any chemical, high-fructose syrup pumps to mask defects. Financially, it is a massive victory for your personal budget. A standard bag retails between $11 and $14 depending on your local store, which breaks down to an absolute fraction of $1 per serving. You are getting an authentic, deeply satisfying dark roast experience at a value point that completely exposes the $4 drive-thru cup as a total corporate scam. It is the absolute ideal option for the daily, no-nonsense automatic drip or French press routine. Evans Oro Negro if you are craving the absolute peak of the third wave, premium specialty coffee movement, and want something that transforms your morning into a genuine sensory experience, you look for Stumptown Coffee Roasters. Specifically their cult classic Hairbender blend. You can find this on the shelves of Whole Foods, Safeway, and premium regional grocers across the country. Stumptown operates on a strict direct trade philosophy, bypassing mass commodity brokers to source directly from family-owned farms in Africa, Indonesia, and Latin America. They pay a substantial premium above fair trade minimums to guarantee that only the most pristine, perfectly ripe coffee cherries are harvested. Their roasting technique is an exact science, prioritizing clarity, sweetness, and complex fruit notes. The very first sip of Hairbender completely recalibrates what your brain thinks coffee is supposed to taste like. It delivers an incredibly bright, complex flavor profile, bursting with notes of sweet citrus, dark caramel, and a distinct, lingering finish of dark chocolate. It has an actual living acidity that feels crisp and refreshing, rather than the caustic, stomach-burning acid of over-roasted mass-market garbage. Now let us be completely honest about the cost. At $16 to $18 for a bag, it is absolutely a premium price point. But let us run the real mathematical comparison. That single bag yields between 30 and 40 high-strength, premium cups of coffee. That means you are paying roughly 50 to 60 cents per cup for competition-level, freshly roasted specialty coffee at home, compared to handing over $6 to $7 at a drive-thru for a liquid candy beverage built on stale, over-roasted commodity leftovers. The premium markup on the bag is completely justified because every single extra cent goes directly into sourcing pristine agricultural raw materials and precision roasting, rather than funding massive national television ad campaigns. It is the ultimate choice for pour-overs or home espresso setups when you want absolute luxury without being ripped off. Evans Oro Negro for the consumers who absolutely refuse to give up the sheer speed and social ritual of the commercial cafe experience, but want to completely wash their hands of private equity corner cutting. The answer is stepping into a regional or independent specialty shop that handles its own sourcing. Look for established, transparent names like La Calam, Blue Bottle, or Counterculture, which have cafes scattered across major American metros and distribute whole beans directly to local markets. These operations treat coffee like a fresh agricultural crop, printing the exact roasted-on date directly on the front of the packaging, rather than hiding a cryptic expiration code at the bottom of a plastic tub. When you walk into an authentic specialty cafe, you are physically stepping into a fundamentally different operational model. You can smell the natural, sweet caramelization of roasting beans from the doorway, a sensory detail that has completely vanished from mass-market drive-thrus. The baristas are trained professionals who understand extraction science, water chemistry, and grind calibration, treating the beverage with genuine craftsmanship. The downside to these high-end specialty networks is availability. If you live far outside a major metropolitan hub, you won't find a brick-and-mortar location on your corner, meaning you will have to rely on their direct-to-consumer online shipping subscriptions. But whether you utilize their digital subscription model or buy their beans at a local Whole Foods, you are getting an honest, uncompromised product that proves you do not have to accept corporate mediocrity as your baseline reality. Now that we have stripped away the massive corporate marketing myths, we need to talk about how you can instantly protect your health and your wallet the very next time you step into a standard retail grocery store. If you are going to take control of your morning routine and stop being an easy target for private equity food conglomerates, you need an actionable strategy you can use right on the shelves of Walmart, Target, Trader Joe's, or Kroger. Here are the absolute, non-negotiable rules for navigating the modern grocery aisle without falling victim to food industry deception. First, when buying packaged whole or ground coffee, ignore every single buzzword on the front of the bag like gourmet, premium, or house blend, and flip it directly to the back to look for a specific, clear geographic origin and an explicit roast date. If a brand cannot tell you exactly which region of Colombia, Ethiopia, or Sumatra your beans came from, and instead uses vague terms like international blend, you are buying cheap. Mass-market commodity leftovers optimized solely for shipping stability. Second, check the ingredient list of any supermarket pastry, muffin, or bakery item for the presence of hydrogenated palm oil, soybean oil, or modified cornstarch. These specific industrial ingredients are massive red flags signaling that the product was flash frozen months ago in a centralized factory and relies on synthetic emulsifiers and cheap fats to unnaturally simulate freshness on the retail shelf. Third, completely avoid pre-ground commercial coffee cans sitting on standard grocery shelves. The very second coffee beans are ground, their delicate volatile organic compounds begin rapidly oxidizing, turning a vibrant agricultural product into a stale, flat, highly acidic powder within days. Buying whole beans and using a simple burr grinder at home ensures you preserve the natural oils that prevent that harsh, stomach-burning sensation. Fourth, when shopping at budget-friendly spots like Aldi or Trader Joe's, look specifically for 100% single-origin Arabica options, which offer the highest baseline quality control without the massive markup of mega chains like Starbucks. Finally, never purchase frozen breakfast sandwiches or microwavable pastries that boast of always fresh or bakery-style flavor on the cardboard box. A quick glance at their chemical composition reveals high fructose corn syrup and sodium texturizers used purely to bulk up the weight of cheap dough, meaning you are paying premium prices for manufactured industrial water weight and filler. Kansas City Star to sum everything up neatly, the modern American fast food and grocery breakfast industry is no longer run by passionate bakers or coffee experts. It is operated by massive financial holding groups that treat your daily breakfast as a cost-cutting playground to satisfy quarterly corporate shareholders. They have successfully spent decades decoupling the physical quality of food from the nostalgic emotion of the brand logo, meaning they can systematically hollow out the ingredients while charging you significantly more money for a smaller, cheaper product. The single mind shift you need to make right now to stop being a victim of this system is simple. Judge the physical product strictly by its transparent supply chain and its raw ingredient deck. Never by the comforting colors on the cardboard box or the convenience of a drive-thru lane. Thank you so much for investing your valuable time with me through this deep dive today. If this investigation completely changed how you view the items sitting on your kitchen counter or what you are handed at the morning drive-thru window, please share this video right now with a friend or a family member who still spends $6 to $8 every single morning on liquid candy and stale, factory-reheated pastries. I want to hear from you directly down in the comments section. Which of these major mass-market brands is sitting inside your home or along your daily commute right now? And are you ready to completely ditch it for a cleaner alternative? Make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because next week we are moving directly inside the main grocery store aisles to expose the exact hidden ways that major food manufacturers have quietly slashed the weight, nutritional value, and processing standards of your favorite everyday household staples while aggressively raising the price tag at the register. They want you to believe it is just standard inflation, but next week we will call it exactly what it is. Do not miss it. Stop paying for the logo.